Okay, now we're good. Alright, so welcome to a brand new video about Spotify and why I decided to stop using it in 2026. This video there's going to be two parts. So the first part is why, the second part is how I stopped using it. And I don't want to make this first part too long because, well, first of all, I don't want to rant too much, and second of all, this gimbal is very, very heavy. It's like 7 pounds, and so I don't know if I can hold it for too long. So first thing I don't like with Spotify is the shuffle mode. The shuffle is kind of awful. I don't know why, but how I like to consume music is I basically put every song into the same library, and so I just press shuffle and I'll hear something random each time. And I like that about like most things, but the shuffle from Spotify is just terrible and it doesn't work well. And so when I press shuffle, it's not shuffling songs right. It's not working as intended. It's mostly like the same songs that are coming back to back because it uses an algorithm that scans songs for like similar songs and stuff. And yeah, that's not very good. The second reason I don't like Spotify is because some of the music I listen to is not even on Spotify, or it was on Spotify and it was removed. And there are like more mysterious songs there that I can name. To name a few, there's this album by Black Banshee that's not really on Spotify anymore, so that kind of sucks. There's almost all Japanese music is not going to be on Spotify because they still use disc there, CDs, so that kind of sucks. Also, you've got Fergie, I think that's how you pronounce her name. One of her songs is not on Spotify, so that sucks. Yeah, lastly, there's Godspeed You Black Emperor that made a terrific album. I don't remember the name. I'm gonna show it like here, and it's pretty good, and it's not on Spotify anymore. It was on Spotify, but it was removed. So the thing that sucks with Spotify is that you pay monthly, but you don't own anything. And I feel like that's a recurring theme nowadays. You pay for a car, you gotta pay for the subscription to have heated seat, which is ridiculous. And so it's kind of a gateway to this world of you just pay and you don't own nothing and you'll be happy in some way. And that's the biggest part. If there's something happening with like Spotify servers, the company goes bankrupt, and there's chances of that, like their model is probably not sustainable long term, and it's gonna suck. The best example of that is Netflix. Netflix used to be great. It almost killed piracy, but right now it sucks so much. There's so much alternative with different titles that you gotta find like where my movie is on which streaming platform, and that sucks. It made piracy go great again. And right now, I mean, Spotify is too good, so I don't think that's an issue for now, but in the future it might be an issue. And lastly, well, if you haven't heard of it, the CEO of Spotify basically invests into weapons to make war. So if you don't like the war, but just maybe consider putting your money somewhere else. Okay, so now that we talked about the how, let's talk about the why. And no, that's not it. Now we talk about why, let's talk about how you can build your own music library and basically replace Spotify. And yeah, the first part is just getting music. And to get the music, there's a lot of options nowadays. One of the best options is just simply buying CDs and ripping them using a program called EAC, Exact Audio Copy, and it works pretty well. One thing that I found is that if you're going for used CD, it's going to be less expensive, of course. If you're like me and your parents already own a collection of CDs, it can be even easier for you to start making your own collection. You can just take those CDs and basically um, rip them into FLAC files. Um, and why FLAC in particular is pretty interesting. It's because FLAC in itself is free lossless audio codec, and it's better than MP3 because it preserves all the details of the real mastering versus something like MP3, which will compress your music. For archiving purposes, FLAC is just straight better because you'll get like the exact information that you had on your CD. You're going to store it on a file, and it's going to be identical. So that's great. Yeah, so you start ripping your CDs. If you don't have CDs, what you can do is you can buy them used, which is cheaper often. I went to this place in Vieux Quebec. I don't recall the name, but it was a nice CD place, and I talked to the guy and asked him like, "Yo, is the business good these days?" And what he told me was kind of amazing, honestly. He said that yeah, the business is like resurrecting in some way, and people are interested again in physical media and owning the media. There's a lot of reason for that. I mean, one of the reason I can see is because you don't want to land your kids just your Spotify library. You want to actually give them something, and your music. They're not just gonna listen to your music on Spotify. That is kind of fucked. So you're giving them your old collection of CDs, and they can build from that as well. Okay, so also a nice thing you can do these days is go to a library. And I went to a library. It's been so long since I went to a library, and it was pretty cool. I made my card because I lost mine, and for some reason, I had Kevin's card. I don't even know why I had Kevin's card. I just had it, and I couldn't find mine, so I made a new one, and then I borrowed the CD. I found Train Spotting soundtrack, which is pretty good. I used Radio Music to see like how good it is, and in my opinion, it's a pretty cool website. It works kind of like Letterbox, where people just review your albums and give them a rating on 5. So the Train Spotting album got a 4 out of 5, which is like pretty goddamn good. I also use a lot radio music to find new music, find new artists, because there is this chart where you can see like per year what was the best album on radio music, which is really useful. I've found a lot of great artists using radio music and just listening to their albums. I got Train Spotting, and then what you do is you take the CD and you put it into your CD drive and you rip it using EAC. And I don't really remember what the settings were. There's a great video made by Epos Vox, I think, covering like how to rip CDs and how to make your FLAC files, which I'll link into the video description just to explain like how it works. And yeah, there's also other alternatives. If you don't have a CD drive on your computer, you can just buy the music online and download it as well. That works. There's a lot of websites like Bandcamp, 7 Digital. There's Qobuz, which you can basically pay and download music from there, or you could just pay for Qobuz and have access to their library of songs. I think it's a bit better than Spotify because it gives more to artists and the quality is better. So it's also a private company, so it doesn't have to make money for the investors. That's a bit great as well. There are also other alternatives that promises to give you the same quality music for free, and I won't go into details about them because that would be a bit illegal for this video. So I'm just gonna say that they exist and I'm not gonna mention them. If you want to look that up, you're free to look that up. I'm not saying you should, but they exist. You can get potentially good files from them. One thing I will say though is that if you take this route, there's a very useful tool that's called faking the funk that just analyzes your audio files and says if they are real or fakes. Because the thing with downloading from those websites is that you don't know if what you're downloading is an actual like real file or it's just an MP3 that was converted to a FLAC file. So a lossy music that was converted to lossless, which in this case it doesn't work. And that's one of the reasons why I started creating my music library in the first place. It took me years to build it, but right now I feel like it's at a pretty good point where when I discover new music, I just add it to it, but it contains pretty much everything I ever listened to, almost everything. And I find that part pretty cool because it's kind of an archive on my memories. Some of those songs have associated memories with them, and also the whole thing is kind of an archive about myself and who I am, because you are what you consume, if you like it or not. So if you consume some Taylor Swift, well, you're I listen to pretty much every genre. Only genre I don't really listen to is country, and I hate country. I absolutely despise it. I listen from classical to soundtracks all the way up to metal and dubstep. I can maybe show a bit of my setup right now. Right now I'm using an absolutely overkill setup for listening to music. I'm using a combination of a topping E70 Velvet as a DAC and then a topping A30 Pro as an amplifier, and that goes into a Sennheiser HD800S, which are amazing headphones, pretty goddamn expensive as well. Now, let's say you're set up, you've got your music library, you've got all your files. What do you do now? Well, you can play them on your computer, and to do so, I like to use Foobar, which is a free open source program with lots of customization in mind. I can show you like my setup on Foobar. It looks like that. And as you can see, there are artists, album arts, and it's basically the CEO's Pantera setup, but a bit modified. If you want something more like Spotify, well, you gotta get tinkering, and if you like tinkering, well, this is pretty good for you. What I'm using is I have my own server. It's not really a server, it's just an old gaming computer running Ubuntu server, but on it I have all my music library, and it's using Navidrome, which is basically a music server. How that works is that it takes your library, and then with other apps you can connect to it, and it will send the data to the other apps so they can play the files. And it works pretty well. An advantage of using Navidrome over something like Jellyfin or other alternatives is that Navidrome supports encoding on the fly. So let's say you're out of your house or you're not using Wi-Fi. Well, you don't want to stream FLAC, because the thing about streaming FLAC is that those files are huge compared to, let's say, MP3. So you can ask Navidrome, hey Navidrome, can you compress those files for me so I can play them when I'm in the car, I can play them when I'm outside, and it works super well. I'm using it with Fenshin on Windows, which looks a lot like Spotify, and I love the interface. It's very simple, works very well. It has all the feature I really want from a music player, and the advantage is that I can use it without like opening foobar, because if I open foobar, well, my audio is just gone from all my other apps but foobar. So I use Fenshin, very nice app, very cool, free. And on my phone, I use Symphonium. Symphonium also looks a lot like Spotify. It has a lot of customization options, and it works pretty great as well. I've had no issue with those two apps, so thumbs up for me. Those are pretty good. And then when I don't have my phone, I don't want my phone because sometimes I just want to take a walk and not be distracted by anything, which is pretty much every day now. I just take my iPod 5.5, and this thing is absolutely amazing. I think I built it like 2-3 years ago, and by building it, I mean I modified it. It's not a stock iPod anymore. It has a 4,000 milliamp battery, which can make it last like a week without a charge, like even 2 weeks without a charge. It's crazy. It has the Taptic engine of an iPhone 7 Pro, if I'm correct, which also is pretty cool. It has a 512 gigabyte storage, which to make that possible, I used, I don't remember the name of the adapter. I'm going to show it to you because here's the thing about the iPod modding community. There's two ways of doing it. There's the cheap way and there's the good way. And I did it the cheap way first with the like CF Express card, whatever, red thingy. And that blew up in my face because my music library is like 350 gigabytes or something. And when I tried to like put all that music into the CF Express thing, I think above 256 gigs, this thing is not gonna work. You're gonna need to find another solution, and I'm telling you this right now because I've learned that the hard way. Also, the thing with the iPod is that it just lets you listen to music freely. I'm actually using it a lot in real life, and it's not something like, oh, I've built it for like the fun of it and it's another project that just sits there. I'm using the iPod daily and I love this thing. It looks cool too. Like, I've seen some people on subreddit of iPods that said like, oh no, I'm too scared to bring out my iPod in public. People are going to judge me. Well, I don't give a shit about that, and it's fun because some people, they just see it and they ask you a question about it. I've had this interaction in the bus where a girl saw the iPod and was like, damn, you're still using that. I was like, yeah. And she wanted to take a picture of it. People, they see it and they think it's cool. It's not something to be ashamed of. Okay, so to convert your music so it can be played on the iPod, you need to convert it to ALAC, which is Apple Lossless Audio Codec, which is their lossless codec. And to do so, I like to use DB Power Amp because it's really simple to set up. And if you don't have DB Power Amp, what you could use is FFmpeg instead. And I'm pretty sure you could make a command that would do the exact same thing for free. So that works as well. Okay, so now that you got your ALAC files, you'll need to synchronize them with the iPod. And to do so, what I like to do is use an older MacBook Air from 2013. And I just take the files and I drop it into it. And then I'm just going to synchronize my iPod. But before doing so, what I like to use is Legacy Scrubbler. And specifically, a version that I modified to work with Listen Brains. And what this does is that it keeps tracks of all the music you've listened to and can give you insights or statistics about what you listen to and what you would like to listen to, which is very cool. And it can be used to make something that looks like the Spotify Wrapped, which in itself is pretty goddamn cool. The other cool thing with Listen Brains is that you can use it in combination with Navidrome. So each time you play a file, if it's on Fenshin or if it's on Symphonium, it doesn't matter. It's just gonna store that data on their servers, and then you can see like what kind of music you listen to at which time, which month. It's a very cool, and it can give you a recap at the end of the year. Okay, so now that we've scrubbed all the music from the iPod, we can synchronize it, and we need to scrub it before synchronizing it, because when you synchronize the iPod, it's just gonna erase the listening history that's stored on it. So we're synchronizing it, and the important thing with the iPod, the most important thing, is that you gotta eject it properly. If you don't eject it properly, what's gonna happen is that next time you're gonna try to sync it, it won't sync. It will say, oh, you gotta replace all your music on the iPod. And this has happened to me so many times. It is such a pain in the ass to do so, because you'll have to wait hours for it to complete. And so please just eject it properly so it doesn't break. Even if you eject it properly, sometimes it just breaks, and you'll need to resync it no matter what. So that's something to be aware of. One I use the most are probably like the 7 Hz wireless that are always stuck to my iPod. When I'm not using my iPod with my headphones, I have this docking station that also doubles as a charging station. The cool thing with it is that it has a coaxial and an optical audio out. It can extract the digital audio from the iPod, and then I can use it in combination with my Topping DX3 Pro Plus, so that I can play music either on my IEMs or I can play on my eStats, which are connected to it. Previously, when we had a Prius Prime 2017, it had an iPod support on it, which is pretty cool. And I could just straight up plug my iPod into the Prius and it would show up on the dashboard. It was pretty amazing. With the new Prius Prime 2025, however, it's not possible. You cannot even use a goddamn jack into the Prius, which is a problem in itself, because the audio connection is not always stable for some reason. Sometimes it drops. And the workaround is that I bought a Nokia E10 Pro, which I can plug into my iPod, and then I can pair it with the car, and it will play the music that's on my iPod on the car. The issue with it is that when I try to skip a track, it will skip like 4 tracks, which is kind of hilarious, but it's pretty good. And it works. But nowadays I just use Symphonium with my phone and it works better, so it is what it is. Yeah, so that's basically how I stopped using Spotify altogether. I'll leave a lot of links to like what software I'm using and resources I'm using in the description, so that you can just check it out yourself and see if it's worth doing for you. I'm enjoying more music because I don't have like constantly access to it, or constantly access to every music. You kind of learn to listen to albums again, enjoy them. It's a thing about life, is that having some limitations helps you more than it really like limits you. It's a big concept in art. Basically, you're limiting yourself so you can be more creative. And I feel like this can apply to a lot of things in life, where limitation isn't actually limiting yourself, it's a way to learn. This was the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, well, I'm gonna make more of these until I go to China in the month of May. Yeah, I'm going in May in China. Okay, also fun fact, I got accepted at University Laval in cinema, which is gonna be interesting, and I think that's the way I wanna pursue looking forward. I've also applied to UCAM and to Concordia, but I haven't received news from them yet. And once I have those news from them, I'm gonna upload the video that I sent as a portfolio. So right now, life is absolutely great for me, and I can spend time creating more and doing more, which I like, just also relax. I'm gonna make more videos. I have some ideas of what I want to make. Next is probably gonna be a video on one of my favorite video games and why it's dead now. Okay. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.